want to bring in some people who might have some answers here. Congressman Jared Moskowitz of Florida, Republican, Congressman Mike Lawler of New York. Congressman Lawler, you were in the Republican conference meeting. How did this deal for Jordan to temporarily suspend his campaign while he works on getting more votes and empower Patrick McHenry, how is that coming together? And will the 7 or 8 Republican rebels support it?
Well, obviously, we've been in the middle of these discussions. We temporarily paused so that Speaker Pro Tem McHenry could go to the floor and gavel in and then recess. But we're going to continue the conversations. The bottom line to me is this. If we don't have 217 to elect a speaker, and unfortunately we don't at the moment, we need to get back to the work of the American people. And so it's critically important that we empower Patrick McHenry, who is in the Speaker Pro Tem role, to temporarily assume the duties of the Speaker so that we can start moving our appropriations bills, aid to Israel, deal with the crisis in Ukraine and our border. And if the longer the House stays closed, the harder it is to deal with all of these important challenges facing the American people. So this is, frankly, in my opinion, critically important to get this resolution on the floor and get it passed. I think both parties bear responsibility here. Jared may disagree with me slightly, but we wouldn't be in this situation if 8 Republicans and 208 Democrats didn't vote to remove the Speaker. And so we're going to have to find our way out of it collectively and, get back to the work of the American people.
Congressman Moskowitz, is one of the demands, though, from Democrats for their support to put this over the top, to have a commitment from Patrick McHenry that he will abide by the July debt ceiling spending limits rather than the deeper cuts that Kevin McCarthy then was insisting on, and that the conservatives in his caucus, I shouldn't say conservatively, those 8 and others were insisting upon, which was one of the things that broke the deal apart.
No, thanks, Andrea. Thanks for having us. Look, if there is a bipartisan deal to empower the pro tem, which I'm in favor of, I want to see the details, of course, first, but I'm in favor of to get the House open, to pass an Israel package, to aid Ukraine, to do the people's work here in the United States Congress, then it's going to have to be a bipartisan path forward should Democrats empower the pro tem, and all of a sudden we go back to the way it was, and that deal is gonna fall apart. But look, we are where we are. All of the Republicans voted for this rule to give one person the ability to vacate the chair. All the Democrats voted against that. And so, this is based on the rules the Republicans passed by empowering, unfortunately, the most extreme of their members. But the good news is that there are enough moderate Republicans, enough Democrats to work together to try to reopen the House and do the people's business. And if we can get that done in short order, the last 16 days will be forgotten. But if we do not take this moment to figure out how to get out of this rut, then we're going to be leaving our allies stuck with no help from the United States. So this is imperative. It's a national security issue, international security issue now at this point, and I look forward to working with my Republican colleagues on a potential solution.
Can you give us an idea of what you think the bottom lines should be, though? In order to pass this resolution, what commitments do the Democrats have to have from Republicans to go forward with the bipartisan resolution?
Yeah, well, look, I'm going to let my leader, Hakeem Jeffries, do that. We are a unified caucus. We've been putting 212 up over the last several weeks. So I'm going to let leadership do that. We just came out of caucus. He heard from members on what we'd like to see. We don't have demands, but what we'd like to see, so that there's an understanding that if there's a bipartisan deal to empower the pro tem to do the operational business of the House, then obviously it's a bipartisan path forward.
Well, you both serve in the House Foreign Affairs Committee. You're pushing a bipartisan effort for stricter sanctions against Iran that has, of course, supported Hamas with training, funding, and weapons. The White House issued sanctions yesterday targeting Iranian missile and drone technology. Congressman Lawler, what more do you want?
Well, look, Iran is the biggest state sponsor of terrorism, and most of their funding comes from the sale of Iranian petroleum. China is the biggest purchaser of that petroleum. And so we have had sanctions on Iran and Iranian petroleum for years, but it is imperative that we go after anyone who is transporting, refining, this petroleum. It is used to fund terrorism. And there is no question that they have funded Hamas, they have funded Hezbollah, and they have used these organizations, these terrorist organizations, as proxies in their effort to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. There can be no equivocation here. We must stand with Israel. We must crack down on the terrorist regimes, including in Tehran, that are funding these attacks on Israel, period. And so this important bipartisan piece of legislation, which has over 200 co-sponsors in the House, needs to pass markup today and come to the floor as quickly as possible so that we can get it across the finish line.
Well, do you think before that can pass, before anything can pass, you've got to do something about Patrick McHenry? Do you think, from what you heard in the Republican conference, that this resolution will pass today? It will obviously need some Democratic votes.
Look, we're going to continue the discussion. Obviously, I would like to see resolution on this as swiftly as possible so we can get back to the work of the American people and allow us to get to 217 on a permanent speaker going forward. But, you know, we're going to continue the conversation shortly, and I hope we can find consensus.
And, Jared, what do you know so far about Israel and the intelligence that the U.S. says Israel was not responsible for the bombing of the hospital, although at this point it may not matter because the Arab world thinks so, and the State Department just issued a travel warning, Jared Moskowitz, about terror threats around the world to any Americans traveling.
Here's what I know. What I know is we saw a disgusting display of anti-Israel, anti-Zionism, and anti-Semitism from the international media around the world. They immediately took Hamas's word for it. Hamas, a terrorist organization, who said something and ran with it. It caused riots around the world. It caused the president's meeting to be canceled. But when Israel said it wasn't true, they had to show satellite imagery. They had to show trajectory of the bomb. They had to explain the crater size. They had to show all sorts of audio intelligence. But Hamas, their word was taken seriously. So look, this shows how dangerous it is to be listening to a terrorist organization when they put out numbers, when they put out facts and figures, and they put out statements. And it's a lesson for the media and elected officials that this is an active war zone. And we have to be careful before we take stuff and weaponize it, because look what it caused in the Arab world.
We had, Andrea, we had the media, we had members of Congress promulgating this lie, and there are consequences to that.
Let me just say there were Congressman, not the NBC, the media, not most American media.
I did not say NBC, but CNN did, and I will tell you,
media in the Arab world.
And CNN did as well. And I will tell you, it is wrong. It is wrong. We need to, when you are in war, you better make sure you have your facts. We cannot have Baghdad Bobs running around promulgating these lies, especially members of Congress. So it is imperative. It does matter. Facts matter here. And we need to make sure that people understand Israel did not attack a hospital. That was a terrorist organization that did that.
No, I could not agree more with the fact that at this point, no one is absolutely sure who did this, but that there's no facts that would suggest that Israel did it. No one knows positively. The U.S. assessment is most likely it was not Israel, with high confidence. Thank you very much. Congressman Jared Moskowitz, Mike Lawler.
Thank you. Thank you.